Happy Tuesday, everyone, and welcome to your daily lighting critique. So to start things off today, I'm going to talk about Raúl's work because that got missed in the shuffle yesterday. So we'll talk about Raúl, then I want to answer a question from Aaron, then I want to hop over into a video that Forrest made, and then go through the rest of the still images. So Raúl, off the bat, I love the color scheme that you've established here in the shot. I love like the simple warmths with the simple cools, and like it's a really subtle color scheme that I think is working really well. Forrest pointed out in the comments that this glass that we're looking through, this broken glass with the gunshots, it's not fully justified, right? So we're kind of close to the ground. We're at an angle. We're like near this grass. I don't know what glass thing would be down here. So he suggested putting it as almost like the car, right? Like maybe we're like, you just see the hood of the car here or something like that to kind of justify that. So that would be step one. Step two is that these cracks are very, very, very bright. Like in here, you just kind of see white, right? Like there's not, and that doesn't fully reflect what we're seeing in the environment. So you pick up more of the colors because it's just a reflection that's kind of at a weird angle. Like it's a weird refracted reflection, like that just kind of picks up on the surroundings. So this low light scene would not generate that type of brightness on it. And then additionally, there's no indication that we're looking through glass. Like there's no warbling, there's no, distortion at the edges. So just something to keep in mind. In terms of the rest of the image, like I said, I think that this character is looking really good. To justify this rim light, maybe go a little stronger inside the house. And then watch out, do you see like this weird anti-aliased edge here on the tip of this, on the tip of the grass? Just watch out for that. That may be a bad Z-depth edge or something. That can be resolved if that is the case, because it kind of looks like it's fine down here, but it gets a little janky when it overlaps the alpha of what's behind it. A good way to handle that is to just render this grass out separately, and that way you're able to pull a clean edge from it to blur it up and put it out of focus. So, yeah, that's what I would do as next steps for you. To answer Aaron's question here, so I think it's a very good question and something that we should all consider. So it's basically, I have a side question when it comes to our final renders. How big of a role should Photoshop play? This is something that we get asked pretty often. And it's basically like, I think, well, at the ground level, nobody really cares how much you do in the render versus how much you do in Photoshop. It's only about how good the final image is. In Photoshop could be substituted for Nuke or After Effects or whatever you're using. But you don't, so basically it's like whatever you can do to make the best looking image is what you need to do. The way that I like to do it, and this is my general philosophy, and this comes from a little bit from like a photographer's background, is that I want my renders to, what I focus on is generating good shaping, generating good bounce between the elements, like getting enough light in there so that you get some light bounces off of one surface onto another. And really pushing, because you can't simulate that in the 2D. You can only simulate that in the 3D elements, or you can only simulate it well, I should say. So you don't want to lean too heavily on just doing like a lot of color tweaking in the comp, because that will kind of break that connection between a wall and the table, or like a table and an object. But that being said, there are a lot of elements like blurs, depth of field, cost, or like just some glows, some added diffusion, volumetric rays, things like that you can really add in the comp to really help it out and give an image that nice, clean, finished, polished look. Also, from a photographer's standpoint, is that I never, ever, ever consider my render the final output, right? Like you render it out the same way that you never consider a raw shot, an image that you shoot, like a literal raw file. That's never the final output, nor is it intended to be. Those files are intended to capture the greatest pixel depth and image depth that it can, so that you can make contrast tweaks, so you can make some tweaks in the comp. Same thing with your EXR files that are being rendered out of your renderer. They're just meant to get close, get as far as you can in the renderer, but then you'd add the final polish and touches in Photoshop. I'm sorry that answer's a little bit vague, but basically But basically, you don't want to ever think of your render as being the final product, nor do you want to lean on After Effects or Photoshop too heavily, because you can not create sound images that so really you really just do the best you can in both. Again, lame answer, but let me know if you have some more specifics. But I just don't want people ever to think about what's coming out of the renderer as the final image. Okay, let's hop over to Forrest's shot here. So there will be no audio that plays here, but just so you know, there's a lot of black here at the front, and you hear a car crash sound. And then we hop in here, and there's a subtle parallax shift of the camera, which is kind of cool. And you can see that parallax shift if I kind of zoom this up, and then the lights go out here, and then boom, that light comes on. So I have a couple of visual things that I would tweak, and a couple story points that I think would really help out. So visually, the two of the things I would tweak I would move this moon off the tip of the house. I would move it, to one side or the other. I think that right there, it kind of puts it's like the top of an ice cream cone or something. I think that shifting it over to one side or another would be like a little bit of a better composition, because it's just teetering close to the top. The other one is when these rear lights turn off, I would turn off that red glow as well. You can render that as a separate pass or something and plus that in, so you don't have that. In terms of the car crash itself, I think that's really smart to use that audio at the beginning. From here, instead of having, you can have, I would have the headlights flicker, because that's the car that's just been in the accident. You want those to it's like in the horror movie thing where you have the flashlight that's flickering out, and you kind of hit the side of it and you try and get it to work, but then it flickers out and then you're in darkness. Think of the headlight as that flickers out, and then you can just pop those guys off. And same thing with the tail light there, just pop those off, and then so you're into total darkness there. And then from there, the one thing that I really want is, let me just hop here to the end, is in the back half of this, I want this to be brighter, and I want the light to come out enough to illuminate the inside of the car. I want to build a connection point between those two things, because what I've always learned is that if a character or something is in danger, you want to visually connect that danger point to the character. So if it's like, if a missile is being fired at, your main character that's an airplane, right? You want the glow from that missile to be on the plane so you can feel the connection between there, so the character feels like it's in a sense of danger. So I want to feel that danger. That being said, you may want to put in like maybe Adam or one of our other characters in here to just kind of silhouette it up. And then you can make it seem like they're struggling to get out, either with some light flicking on and off or something in there with just like, because I would love for this light as it comes out to hit and silhouette a character. Right, I think that would be really cool. Additionally, I think that's a really good spot to start with. The other thing is this tail light feels like it's very wide. I wonder if, not like that thin, but like I wonder if you can't zero it in a little bit, because it feels like it's just a little bit everywhere. I would tone that. That would tone that in as well. Okay, but that's really cool stuff, and that's like a 40-second. Animated render. I think it's pretty impressive. So, and I hope you're rendering these elements as like separate elements, like this on versus off, so you can animate that in the comp. Same thing with that and the light flicker there and this thing popping on. I'm trying to think too. You could also, I guess it's more of a window. I was thinking it was a door, like you have the door open, but this is probably easier just to have that pop on. But really cool stuff there. I like that a lot. All right, so let's start in the back here with Steven, and then we'll work our way to the front. So Steven, okay. So one thing even about the reference image that I'm curious about is that it's really low contrast. Like the value range is just not that high on this. And so you're kind of suffering from the same thing here, which is I really kind of want to see some brighter elements. The other thing is I think you can go darker with your background. I think the brighter background is making the character feel even darker, which isn't helping us out too much. I would soften the shadows a little bit. Like, do you see how soft that shadow is versus what we're seeing there or there? I think your shadows on this might be a little too strong. The other thing is, and this is always a concern when you're working with like a very green light on a warm tone character, is he's starting to kind of gray out on his skin tone there. It might be beneficial to desaturate his skin tone in the shader so you can pick up some of these colors a little better without fighting it with these warmer tones. And then this eye is a little bright. The green on that is very, like if you compare that to what we're seeing on the magenta side, it's very, very poppy. And then, let me look back here. Yeah, so I think, and really what it is with the lights is I would almost favor one of them over the other, like the magenta be more dominant than the green, either way, or vice versa. And then you can really kind of crank up that light to get some brighters and then leave the value of the other light kind of where it is. But yeah, I would do that for the next step and then we'll go from there. Okay, Pearl, really good submissions here. So for this one, I think she's looking a lot better. I think we can go a little, by the way, this light's looking really good. I think we can go a little less saturated in the skin, maybe even to the point where we're hitting it with a little bit of warm light. Just less cool light, because again, she's kind of graying out a little bit, like a little bit less, less saturation, more value, because you can lift that shadow just a bit more. There's some saturation points like on her shoes that you may just want to toe down, because that level of saturation is drawing the eye down here. And then the third thing I would have you do is have this part of her hand match the color of her face, because I think the color of her face in the key side's looking really good. Try and match that level there. And then finally, the stripes on her shirt, let's make those a little brighter. They're a little gray dingy, and I think if they were a little bit whiter, that those would work out better, because they're picking up a little bit, like the same way the shoes are getting a lot of saturation in the blues. I think we can lift that, and then same thing here, like lift the value, desaturate a little bit would really help out. So good job there, and everything else, like background's looking really good. Everything's coming together on that one. This one's looking great. Really, really happy with this. Love the color scheme. I think we can go a little less saturated with the headlight color, just because we want that color to pop a little bit more. Maybe try getting a little bit of rim on the character the same way that you're getting that one. And then try and put a little bit of a light wrap or edge blur around these edges. That seems a little crisp, clear. And I think that's it. This is looking really good otherwise. Yeah, I would hit up those and then go from there. Really good job. All right, Nigel, we got some few submissions here from you. We've got an update on your spooky scene. Let's start with the this larger exterior shot, which again, I think is looking really great. I think you can go slightly darker in here. I think that area can be darkened down just a little bit, like similar to what we're seeing over there, just a touch darker. I also think you go a little bit darker on this side of the car, so kind of keep the focus up over here towards the front. And then, but you've got a really nice glow, like your combination of glowiness with the dark values is working really well there. I think we can add in some of that glowiness here in the interior, in the close-up shot. Like you've got it going on here. I just think we can increase it a little bit here without losing some of the dark values. I would decrease the amount of contribution that this warm light is hitting on it, just because we don't see it as much here. And I think that you can maybe just, especially like this one right here, it's very saturated, just neutralize it a little bit. And just want to compare this to the old version. You've added a lot and it's looking really great. I think you can work in a little bit more of the reflection like we had in this original too. That would be my last note there. But love the darkening here. Love the other updates. Love the color shift here. Maybe shifting the interior light to be a little bit more orange and less yellow would be helpful too. All right, poker scene. This is the previous version. This is the updated. Chips look a lot better. Like those darker values really help the brighter elements pop. Yeah, and then the last thing that I want to point out is the eyes, right? Because I think everything else is looking pretty good. For the eyes, I think that you can split the difference a little bit. I think a little bit of that blue in there will help, but like just like a little touch of it. And then watch out for that, whatever is happening there. Like just plug that in and try and get a little, like if you can add an ambient occlusion pass to get a little drop shadow on the eyes, that'll be really good. And then if you can, there's like a very, very bright bit around the edge of that. It's almost like on the normals, like a facing ratio kind of a thing. So just maybe tone that down. And there's a hard line coming across the top of his head. Just try and soften that as well. But everything else is looking really good. Lemise, great. This is a great one. I think this is well improved over your other shot. Just a lot of contrast here in this area. I think we can lift some of the darks. Like, do you see how the dirt is nice and filled in a little bit more here? I know it's getting more light, but I think we can have a little bit more of that in here, especially if like you're getting that level of bright hits there, that the fill area would be a little bit filled in as well. It'd be nice to get a touch of the blue light on this tree back here. And then this can, like that light is theoretically the same as that. So try and match up those blue values there. And if this light is getting hit with the warm light, I would tone down the cool light on the car and just like the overall value, and then just allow a little bit of, like you already see it kind of here, but kind of up that rim light on there. And then I would take down the saturation on this because it's the same hue, but just a little bit more saturated than what's coming out of the windows. And even though that might technically be accurate, it feels like it's not quite connected. Yeah, and I would use that and do that for my next iteration. So good job there. Keven, this one made me laugh when I looked at this because I love the glow and like the glowy elements that you've added to this. I think it makes this screen left side of it look totally mystical and magical and spooky and, you know, whatever the hell else is going on. But then you go over here and it's like all of that glow and it's just totally taken off of this guy. And he's just like, does anyone else see this? Like that's kind of his reaction here. And I think it's really brilliant. Like it's a fun way to tell the story. I think you can add a little more fill on him, just to kind of fill him in a little bit. Like it's a way of, and this is different than what we would normally do, but it's kind of a way of separating him from the rest of what's going on by just pretending that, you know, maybe there's dashboard lights bouncing up. Maybe this light's hitting the dashboard and filling him in there. Just kind of lighting him just a touch more. I would take that down. This shape is just a little bit distracting. Yeah, but everything else is looking pretty good. But yeah, overall, I think this is looking really nice. I think this is a fun project that you've created. Cat, huge improvement here. I think we can eliminate these specular highlights. Maybe just cool them off. It's just the warmth is not connected to a light source that we see, and therefore it feels a little bit distracting and a little bit different. Let's warm up these headlights. The new position is really, really good. But I think we can I think you can push the warmth on those a little bit. They're a little neutralized. She's looking great. I think we can go brighter in the area just directly behind her. And then I'm looking at this, and I'm seeing that that's probably from the sky in the background, and it's almost like, I wonder if there's a reason to add just like maybe just a little more, like a couple of light hits over here, just to give a little bit more shaping just give a little more life to the house. Like as if this light's hitting here, but the way that it's just like super minor. Let's see if like the way that these are kind of being hit here, or like in Nigel's. Let's go to the other one. Like this is more of a fill, but something in here to kind of hit up these areas so they're not just quite jet black against that, I think would really help out a lot. But this is, again, versus where we started, huge improvements. Jenn, yes, love this. I think I just want to add more darker elements. More like, especially in these trees, because like right now the trees, it just appears like they have just kind of a procedural noise shader on them. So I would almost just like make them a little bit darker in here. I think you can find some more dark values in the car. It feels very lifted, particularly on the inside of it. And then although this feels like an accurate reflection of that, I would desaturate that green because it's like I want to keep all the green from a story point in this area because it's around this character, and it feels odd that I'm also seeing it there. And then let's see if we can get some more shaping on the car as well by darkening, maybe even turning off this light, and then which would allow that to go darker and allow a little bit more of this area to go darker too. And then that might work out really well. And then keep all of the light value in this region, allowing this to go darker. And I would also go maybe a little darker around up here, just to kind of keep that all zeroed in there. And that'll really help the viewer's eye just kind of stay in this path. Let me know how you feel about that, but I think that might be a good way to progress. Diana, great stuff here. I think, this is I love your new camera angle. Thank you for clarifying the Diana thing. That was totally my mistake. And I will never make that mistake again. You're awesome. Thank you. But yeah, I love the warm, cool play on this. I think that I was mentioning getting some moon highlights on some of this stuff. I think that's working really well. This diffuse value and the fill's working really well. Love the color. In this region, there's also like a graininess in the image that's really, really nice. Makes it feel like an old, like old footage and it's working really well. I think inside here we could even go a little bit brighter. Like we don't need to see as much detail in there because the detail is pulling us away from the character. And then I think you can add a level of, like you have this fog down here that is working well. I think you can bump that up a little bit, and then similar to like maybe use Nigel's, was it Nigel's? Or like Pearl's is really good too, of just having like an overall foggy, just kind of like haze over throughout it, because I think that would really, really help yours out too, because there's just some like crisp edges around here that could really kind of help soften up. You can push the moon a touch brighter. It's really tough because it's like a white object and it blows out very easily, but I think the moon can go just a shade, like a half of exposure level brighter. Like, just do it. Like, maybe in like that region there. Just kind of punch it up a little bit. I think, but overall, really, really beautiful stuff. Dani. Okay. So with this one, first thing I noticed, like, do you see this? Like, because this brick looks very crisp. This brick looks very crisp. Everything up here looks very crisp. But this wall, for whatever reason, feels fuzzy. And it's almost like the UVs are messed up. So, like, it just feels bigger and fuzzier than the other walls. Okay, so love this light coming in. Got this one here. I also... Let me look at this. So this area, first off, these lights coming in here feel very clipped Like I'm not sure, like they feel very bright, like as if they're super white, but they're also not super white. Like they feel like if I data pick this, like it's more of a gray color and not a white color. So just something to be aware of there. I think we can go brighter outside the windows back here. And so once we get brighter outside the windows there'll be a little bit of glow around there. And then I think we can even go darker on this back here. Yeah, I think putting that back wall in more darkness and maybe even this in a little bit more darkness will help us focus in there. I think that value is probably pretty good. We could probably maybe darken the windows underneath whatever's behind this cross section. And also like the rust. Two things about these bars. The darks, like the grays, should probably be darker, like they feel very lifted. And then the noise on the rust feels very big. I would maybe pull that down a little bit. Same thing with this wall. This wall over here feels out of focus as well. Yeah, and then lastly, the color of these columns feels very warm versus the cool brick. I would pull back the warmth on these, maybe the archways too. So it kind of, and also maybe pull back the saturation in the brick as well. So because I just want those two to kind of fall into a more similar hue family, just to kind of make the image feel a little more cohesive. But yeah, I think this is good. We're making good progress on this. We'll just see where we are at the next iteration. Ashley, really good stuff here. I think the only things that I would push, brightness on the coffee cups. Let's see if we can get those a little bit brighter. Like this is the key light here. And I think it can just go brighter, especially if like that's getting that bright. The hands could be not his, but hers. A little less key, a little more warmth. They look a little like less saturated and brighter than what we're seeing on the face. So let's tweak that. Watch out for this hard line here. And I would just darken, play like her skirt's under this table and not getting any light there. I would darken that. And then bring this eye ding down just a touch, like more like in there. Yeah, let's do that for the next iteration. Like this light on his back. I think that's working really well. Maybe tone that down just a touch. But yeah, do you see what we're doing now though? Like these are like the super finicky final kind of notes. And then also, I just noticed this. So we've got this bright patch on his hair here and here. If there's any way to kind of like soften that transition so that doesn't go like from hard bright to hard soft, and then like maybe diminish that so it's more just like a casual roll off from light to dark going across his head, similar to like she's got bright here and then it gets a little softer here and a little softer here. Like this looks really nice in there. Something similar to that. All right, Aaron, love your new camera angle, your new updates. Everything's looking a lot better. The area that I want you to focus on two things for the next iteration. Number one is the plants just feel metallic. So I would, like this looks really good and I like that level of specular highlight. These two feel very metallic and I would try and match that level with less reflectivity. The second thing that I really want you to work on is, do you see how much color is in the shadows? Like with this pink building and sunlight, even tertiarily, is that a word, tertiarily? The third bounce, so there's light that comes in, hits this building, bounces off, hits this, and then like all of the shadows kind of have this warm, do you see this like warm glow to the shadows? Now if we look over at this one, like this doesn't really have it. The shadows down here are very desaturated and very neutralized. So I think that you can work to insert some more warmth into these shadow areas and more saturation, more color. And then also, it's interesting. So like, do you see how much like this amount of dirt and grime and crud around the edges works really, really well on this wall, but then we don't really get any of it here or here. And you should really try and work those in. Same thing with this wall, but not this one. Also, I'm just realizing this. Double check the UVs on this, because this, like the edge of this, feels like it should butt up against these, and then this line feels like it's not fully extended to the top. So just looking on that, but really focusing on getting some more saturation and more color in the shadows. I think that'll really help you out. All right, that's it, everyone. That's it for today. Please let me know, again, if I missed anybody. I do my best, I swear I do, to get everybody, but between Discord and Facebook, things get missed sometimes. So, all right, that's my alarm. Happy lighting, everybody.